Hobgoblins and witches and things that go bump in the night.
Hello and welcome to Evil Dread. I'm Wyeth.
And I'm Lynn. And what are we talking about this week, Wyeth?
Well, this week is a kind of a farewell week.
It's a changing of the guard in terms of a horror icon passing away into retirement.
It's sad to see him go. Many are.
So, the news came out that Ash vs. Evil Dead on Starz is not being renewed after 3 seasons. So, after some pretty intense fan campaigning, it didn't work. It was called #BringBackBoomstick, and it didn't work. However, Bruce Campbell took this opportunity to say that he is formally retiring the character of Ash, and he will no longer play Ash. Side note, he also said he would not return as Elvis in a Bubba Hotep sequel, even though that was a rumor. So,
long gestating rumor.
Yeah, Bubba Nosferatu would have been the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
But, Bruce is just saying he's just leaving horror behind for greener pastures, or perhaps less bloody pastures.
I'm excited to see whatever he does next.
I agree.
As always.
He took a pretty long hiatus from horror with Burn Notice in the mid-2000s. Everyone's grandma's favorite show, USA, Characters Welcome. I think he has career options. Or he could just be retiring, because, he's an older guy. So
Listen, Bruce, if you're listening, you do you.
Bruce,
we support you.
if you're listening, you have retweeted us before, so I know you are a dedicated listener, so thank you.
We love you.
Mm-hmm. So Wyatt wanted to start this week's pod with a question.
It's a real tangent. And for all 5 of our faithful listeners,
we're getting more followers, weirdly, and not just Swedish porn bots, though we have some of those.
Mm-hmm.
We have been followed recently by the CEO of The Asylum, the company behind Sharknado,
Atlantic Rim,
and one of the producers of WNUF Halloween Special, which was very cool for me because
that was a real special moment for you.
Love that movie a lot. So anyway, this is something I've been thinking about, and this is not just about horror. Wyatt's gonna ask me to join a suicide pact right now, and I don't know how I'm gonna answer.
Wild Wild Country 2.
Oh my god, let's poison the Western Sizzlin or whatever. I didn't finish that show.
What is a movie that if someone says they don't like, you instantly don't trust them?
Ooh! A lot of the shit that you told me you don't like, honestly.
What? Wait, what?
A lot of things that I've shared with Wyatt that are very near and dear to me, that I'm kind of here's a test to see if we can be friends. Movies. Wyatt has told me to go fuck myself to my face with those movies.
What?
The Lost Boys.
Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, that is the stupid Filmstruck 4 going on. It was describe yourself in 4 movies. The Lost Boys was definitely one of them for me. So, what about you? I can come up with more though, because I think...
Well, tell me more.
Well, let me think about it.
Because really...
He was I'm going to start with a question, but I'm not going to tell you what it is before. So I had
Okay, fine. I'll give you some time to think.
Okay.
I've been thinking about this for about a week. And only one movie I've come up with, objectively, things like Lord of the Rings. That's fine. That's not everyone's thing. Mad Max, not everyone's thing.
Okay.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Aww. Okay.
I cannot think of a good reason for someone to dislike Ferris Bueller.
So are we approaching this question from the you can't fuck with me if you don't like it because it means we are very different at our core, or I can't imagine how someone wouldn't like this?
A little bit of both, because I thought about it from both angles.
Okay.
Because I could imagine, if someone had the personality of, a soulless turtle, people know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I do.
And
I think he has like a dark soul, but not the game. But like, I think there's that implies that you have no personality.
There's a darkness to him.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's the type of person who would look at the purity and joy of Ferris Bueller and say something like, "That's not realistic," or it's not funny, or it's not good.
In terms of, I've been thinking about Ferris a lot recently, actually, because of the film Shrek 4, because that is another one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are two ways to look at that movie. I think there are two avenues of appreciation for that movie. Both are valid. One I'm clearly in the camp of, and the other one I am not.
All right, let's unpack the larger Bueller meta.
Do you want to?
Let's go.
Okay.
We got this rabbit trail going.
I mean, we watched Army of Darkness this week, and we've both seen it a billion times, and we've already talked about Evil Dead on here. So we can just talk about whatever we want also.
It's true. It's our show.
So I feel like there are people who see that movie. Actually, I wrote a long essay about this in high school.
Nice.
For fun. So it was like my first piece of nonfiction. But there are people who see that movie and are like, I identify with Ferris. He's such a cool guy. And then there are people who see that movie and identify with Cameron. And it's I think it's a little bit of a deeper experience emotionally if you're coming at it from that angle.
Team Cameron.
Thank you. Good. But I do think it's kind of like, I think this is true with a lot of John Hughes movies, but that one in particular, like, the first time I remember seeing it, I was like, this is a little weird. Like, there's a darkness and an underlying, like, something really alarming is happening, like, between, pool party at a stranger's house and downtown Chicago German Day dancing.
Yes.
So, yeah. I think...
Wait, that wasn't a stranger's house.
Yeah, it was.
The pool scene.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Sloane's house?
I always thought they broke into a stranger's backyard and used
thought
their
it was
hot
Sloane's
tub.
house.
Well, that makes more sense. But I was like, they are truly bold. They're just like...
God, things were simpler in the 80s.
I know, right? But yeah, I think that is an example of a movie that everyone should like, but people don't like they can like in different ways.
Yes.
And that tells you something different about them. Personally, go ahead.
And either way is fine.
Yes.
Like, I've heard people just really hate on Ferris, and while yes, he's an asshole, he's a lovable asshole.
He is. I think if we're looking for traditional, like, does this character change and have development and, like, become a different person by the end?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Cameron absolutely does.
Yes.
So I think there's kind of, like, there's a darker, like, more realistic narrative of, like, adolescence on the sidelines of that movie.
So would you say then that since Cameron has an arc, that this is like Big Trouble in Little China?
In what way?
But Kurt Russell's character, he's the main character, but he's actually the sidekick.
Well, yeah, of, what is his name? The little guy?
Shoot, I can't remember. It's been years since I've seen
He's
Big
great.
Trouble. Oh, Big Trouble's great.
I grew up with Big Trouble in Little China. Looking back, I watched it, not recently, but a few years ago, and I was like, wowie.
It's
okay.
It's really dancing on a line.
Dancing, just flagrantly crossing it many times. I know personally, Ferris Bueller was, like, super important to me because I had never seen... I think that was the first time I saw someone who acted like me in terms of, like, mental illness on screen. Because I'm like, this person's clearly not okay. But also, I do all of that. And I think it's really interesting that, like, I can't really think of a female character that, like, mimics my own mental health issues like that character does, weirdly, which kind of sucks. Yeah. But he's very important to me in my heart.
Well, I'm glad we agreed on Ferris Bueller being a benchmark of trust.
Not to go on a tangent, but
This is exactly what I wanted.
Okay, is there anything else? Another movie that you think, like, everyone should enjoy? What is one that you just won't fuck with someone if they don't like it? Because that's where I'm coming from when you ask that.
See, like, all I've come up with so far is Ferris Bueller, because I love so many genre movies.
Yes.
And I get that certain people don't like genre.
Yeah, but you can say that, like, if... To do an oppositional approach, like, something that if another person likes it, I know I can't vibe with them. You know? Like, the opposite. Like, if you are a person who enjoys the film The Blind Side... I don't know if I can ride with you.
Oh, okay.
You know? Like, that's easier, I think.
Yes, it's easier to judge people based on what they like.
No, but I mean, it's easier to say, like, oh, that's something I don't like, rather than, this is something very near and dear to me, and if other people don't recognize it as such, it kind of sucks, and I don't think, like, we would vibe.
Okay.
You know?
Like, Lost. If someone just, like, comes out swinging, because that's my favorite show of all time.
I did not know this.
If
What?
someone comes out swinging on Lost...
I don't like Lost.
You haven't even seen it, girl.
I stopped watching in, like, 5th grade. I watched it as it was coming out in early middle school, and there was a polar bear, and I was like, this is too much for me. And I was, like, 11, and I was like...
Lost is one of the most important pieces of pop culture for me.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
it's like, we all have those pop cultural things that if anyone even looks at it the wrong way, you get very hurt and offended.
The Lost Boys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my Lost Boys. It's my Lost.
Yeah. I keep looking at my DVD shelf. That's why I'm, like, ignoring you right now.
I figured you were looking to refresh.
I think in terms of humor, something like Clue. Like, I think that is just the perfect comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And it has such, like, a really funny, like, rat-a-tat joke a minute kind of thing going. But you have to pay attention for the jokes to land, and it's a lot of, like, double talk and double entendre and, like, wordplay and stuff like that. I've taken Clue to, like, sleepovers when I was little before, and it did not land.
Oh no, that's the worst.
And let's say those friendships did not last.
Well, fair. On similar grounds, like, if someone were to say, like, oh, I don't appreciate or like The Princess Bride, I would be very dubious about them.
Yes, I think there are certain movies that are the best rather than my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I would not describe Back to the Future as my favorite movie, but I do think it is one of the best examples of an ideally entertaining movie.
Yeah,
you know what I
agree
mean?
with that.
Like John Mulaney has pointed out, the multiple plot holes better than I ever could. But I think that, like, some films just tap into, and that's why they're so massively popular, they tap into, like, just a genuine, like, marveling at the entertainment value of that thing. And I think that's one of them.
I'm about to say
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
Yes. I would rather watch
Back to the Future 2.
the first Indiana Jones than the Star Wars.
I could agree with that. I came out...
1 or 3 of the Indiana
Last
Jones.
Crusade?
I love Last Crusade.
Oh. Like, I think Raiders is a, like, landmark of a film.
Oh, absolutely.
I had to, like... I wasn't, like, embarrassed about this, but I don't think I've seen the first 3 Star Wars. Like, all the way through?
No,
like,
that's fine.
Like the 70s,
Like, I love
ones.
Star Wars, and I love its universe.
Yeah.
But, like, as a movie to enjoy, like, sit down with some friends, I'd rather watch Raiders or Last Crusade.
Yeah, for sure. I would say Raiders is better just because of that Kermit gift that I found of Kermit dressed up as Indiana Jones shooting a man dead in the street.
Why have you not sent me?
I did send it to you!
I don't remember
Oh
this.
my god, it's amazing. Kermit is, like, smiling and then goes bang, and then, like, you see a man in, like, Middle Eastern garb just, like, stagger to the ground dead. It's really funny. I think, personally, this is going to sound like this may sound incredibly weird because no one has an opinion on this movie. Like, absolutely no one has seen this film, nor will they ever, probably. But I think it captures my essence so perfectly and so succinctly in visual audio format that I really can't imagine.
Oh my god, is it Queen of the Damned?
No! Oh my god! Boy, the music in Queen of the Damned was done by Jonathan Davis from Korn. No. Oh my god. I'm really offended. Although she does look great in Queen of the Damned.
I know, I've seen you
Akasha.
post lots of Tumblr posts about
She's
outfits.
awesome. That movie fucking sucks, though. It is like the just early 2000s new metal vampires, which are very, very funny. And very silly.
Oof.
It makes Blade look like a Shakespeare play or something.
It sure does.
Anyway, so I'm saying this because I feel like if someone attacks this movie or has a distaste for this movie, I would take it extremely personally.
Like you get that gut feeling of wanting to both fight and flight.
Yes, I would be like, well, I don't understand because this is my soul on celluloid or whatever.
Yes.
And that is Slumber Party Massacre 2. No one gives a shit about this movie. No one talks about it ever except in like hardcore horror circles. But it is a rockabilly dreamscape fantasia with practical gore effects and like a 50s rock and roll demon with a guitar with a drill on the end disemboweling a pop punk girl band in the 80s. It is truly like if someone looked at the inside of my mind and just like spilled it out on some film.
From everything I've seen that you've shown me, it not only checks your boxes, but it like shoves a pencil through them.
Oh, it is. And I think like if someone watches that and is like, it doesn't make sense, I'm like, we can't vibe because it's not supposed to make sense. Movies don't have to make sense. It really is nonsensical and the plot is negligible. However, plot not a great movie makes always, you know?
I agree. People come out here swinging on the lost plot and I'm like,
oh my.
but I love everyone in the show.
I think character is good too.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some characters that I am very, very like, this is my dude or this is my gal, and I feel personally attached.
I can forgive a lot if I like the characters in something.
Yes, exactly. Totally. Like, the amount of bullshit I have put up with from many shows that I truly enjoy, Buffy being one of them. iZombie has gone off the rails multiple times. Just the amount of shit I put up from the Always Sunny gang.
I
I
thought that
love
was
them.
airtight. Of all the shows, I would have expected Always Sunny to be on the writing level of The Wire.
They've never done anything wrong in their lives on
And
that
I
show.
No.
This gets into kind of like problematic television or whatever, or problematic characters that you have to like overlook stuff, you know?
Yeah. This kind of goes into our territory with Bruce Campbell's Ash.
Exactly. I was about to say that, actually.
Because Ash has evolved a lot.
Devolved, I think. If we're
Yes. I will agree, because we watched Army of Darkness.
Well, can I just frame it as I'm ride or die for Ash?
I'm right there with you.
I probably talked about this before on our Evil Dead episode, but I started getting really hard into movies when I was about 12 or 13, and I had a movie book called 1001 Movies to See Before You Die, and I would carry it to school every day, even though it was like a brick.
I checked that out from the library a lot.
Well, there's the horror section,
Yeah.
and it says Evil Dead 2, and there's a photo, and it gives a description and why it's a movie you need to see before you die. And I went to Tim's video store in my town, and I saw Evil Dead. I got it, and it scarred me very, very badly. But Evil Dead 1, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness was like formative in my deciding to get into horror. I was like, this is what horror can be. It's funny, it's goofy. Each thing. Each film in that trilogy is like vastly different and serves different moods and different like subgenres of horror, I think. So I think it was incredibly important to me and Bruce Campbell's Ash. Like, we watched Army of Darkness together. Every line I just have stuck inside me forever.
It was like your perfectly weighted blanket.
Yes, exactly. I can always return to Ash.
Yeah.
However, go ahead. What were you saying about problematique Ash?
So, see, I feel like the Ash in Army of Darkness is the perfect bridge between Evil Dead and Ash vs. Evil Dead. In that Ash has been through so many traumatic events that he is just letting himself go in order to respond to the horrors of the Deadites. That's my theory. It doesn't okay his gross behavior.
I know.
Because by the time Ash vs. Evil Dead rolls around, like, old man Ash is a dirty old man.
Oh, he's really, like, that was my thing with Ash vs. Evil Dead, is I do think it's engaged in some character assassination for Ash, which is hard to say because it's from the creator's mouth. It's Sam and Robert and Bruce. Like, this is canon, this is canon Ash, and he's racist and sexist and fucking gross most of the time, which really sucks. Because, and I see what you're saying, I do think Army of Darkness Ash is like
kind of a dick.
Tread lightly. Like he's treading lightly on being a complete asshole. But I mean, when I was younger, like the Give Me Some Sugar Baby and all that stuff was like the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. But I think that it was played over the top to go with the tone of the movie, which is like super gonzo and just insane. I don't know. I think when I've seen the first 2 seasons of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and I won't say it's a disappointment. I think the tone is just incredibly was unexpected for me, because it seems more like he's become almost unlikable to me. And all of the redeeming qualities, like the sweet dude who just wanted to save his girlfriend in the first one, who had to like nut up and become a hero or whatever, or the guy in the second one who's like
the same thing.
Well, kind of the same thing. I think he's a little more hard-edged in the second one, especially when all those yahoos come to the cabin. He's like, what the fuck? Get away from me. But I don't know. I just think it lost really kind of what made Ash for me, which was like his heart. He had a heart the whole time, and now it's just kind of like, instead of making him more humanistic, they're like, all right, dick joke, right? We need one. It's been 3 minutes. I do think Ash vs. Evil Dead, the gore and the special effects are outstanding. And Bruce is still charming. Yes, of course. Like, it's always entertaining to watch Bruce, and I love him to death. I think I also had an issue with the show's pacing. Okay. Because it just seems like there is no break to develop anything. So in the movies, it was very like kind of an onslaught, but that was because they were at the cabin, right? Or it was because they awakened it and it's in the forest. While in Army of Darkness, the Deadite attacks are not very few and far between, but there's time to develop character, to develop setting, relationships, and humor and stuff like that. So like where everything stands. And I think in Ash vs. Evil Dead, they sacrificed a lot of story and a lot of character and relationship stuff. I couldn't think of a word, sorry. For every 5 minutes, we're going to get attacked by a Deadite, which is cool, because I like seeing Deadite attacks, but I'm like, you have been nonstop fighting deadites for 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem sustainable, and that's all it has been.
That's, like, I'm sad.
I just talked for like 10 minutes, I'm sorry.
Listen, you're fine.
Go ahead.
Like, I'm sad it's ended, but I'd rather it end with a lot of life left still in it, and instead of becoming like The Walking Dead.
That's true. Yeah. I think 3 seasons was a good length.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, we were lucky just to have it.
Oh, totally. And when it first came on, I was so excited. I was like, this is like Sam and Bruce are like my dudes from back in the day.
Yeah.
So like I get to hang out with them again. And then I was a little disappointed, but it was still fun, and it still had kind of the energy of the movies. I have only seen the first 1 or 2 episodes of this season.
Okay.
Because the Stars website doesn't work. At Stars, get your shit together.
And I'm too poor to afford.
I mooch off my parents. So.
Love you, Leslie.
Thanks, Mom. But it seemed like it was going towards a more... He has a daughter. So it's... I don't know. Maybe they really did kind of a redemption thing this season.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, me too. And it was a new angle of Ash as a person. Rather than, here's the kind of archetype of Ash, or like the stand-in guy of Ash in this situation. And I loved those episodes. They like go to the daughter's high school, and one of her friends gets possessed in the music room, so like Ash ends up cutting her head into little slices with a harp. He like puts the harp on her face and jumps on it, and of course it's like it's so funny and awesome. And the mascot gets giant claws and bloody mouth and stuff. It was really cool. So I'm not gonna come down hard anti Ash vs. Evil Dead because I think it has its place. But I also think part of my love for the first 3 movies was from a place of like childhood nostalgia or like adolescent nostalgia, you know?
And it's always hard to see something like a franchise go in a different direction.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, granted, don't act like Star Wars fanboys about The Last Jedi. those guys can fuck off.
Oh, wow. Wyeth just did, in person, a fuck off gesture, which I wasn't expecting. You know this is an audio medium, correct?
Yes, but like, just really felt it.
It wasn't the bird, it was the 2 fingers, which I like. I don't see that very often, but I like it. Your thoughts on what you've seen from Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I know there was a lot of complaints about the ending of season 2.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that before watching it, and so I'm like, man, I just like hanging out with like Bruce.
Well, yeah.
And so it just like, I'm not expecting anything to make sense or to be like as sound structurally as Always Sunny.
Oh, shut up. God. I was just asking for as sound as Evil Dead 2 or whatever, you know?
But like, I think Ash vs. Evil Dead, especially if you have a love of Bruce or just the aesthetics of like
practical effects.
Practical effects, yeah.
It's truly amazing what they've done on that show with practical effects.
Right.
I just feel like it was more of a showcase for that rather than an actual story. Which, and I mean, that has its place, you know? I just said that movies don't have to make sense.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like, you were pointing out plot holes in Army of Darkness.
Yeah, but...
What were they?
In a loving way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's...
Yeah.
And plot holes that I noticed after watching this movie 15 times, or whatever, you know? My favorite one is when he goes to the cemetery. Can I just say that out of all of the Evil Dead movies, this is the most Halloween-y one.
Right. It has the set decorations done by the people who would go on to make Nightmare Before Christmas.
It
basically.
seems so. Also, I believe Danny Elfman did at least a little bit of the music, so there was a real hard, like, Halloween Town vibe, kind of. But
the score does its Elfman most.
It is Evil Carnival.
MP3.
Oh my god, I saw this fucking Tumblr post, and it was like, it was a piece from the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack, and it was composed by Danny Elfman, and someone was like, Danny Elfman is doing the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack? Is it just gonna be, like, haunted clown music while they're fucking...
God, I hope on YouTube someone overlaid... just a real mix mash of Elfman and Burton and team-ups over 50 Shades... Joyless sex.
It's just Harry Belafonte from Beetlejuice.
Oh my god.
Jump into line. Anyway, so yes, you can move that. So my favorite part of Army of Darkness is when he goes to the cemetery, because there's a bunch of skeleton hands and stuff like that, and he has to choose the real Necronomicon. Mm-hmm. But before doing so, he has to say the magic words, which are Klaatu Barada Nikto, which are, that quote is from The Day the Earth Stood Still. Yeah. The 1950 whatever movie.
Not the Keanu one.
If only. Keanu could have been in the 1950 whatever movie. We don't know.
Ageless.
He is an immortal. Anyway, so obviously Bruce screws it up.
Bruce Goose.
Nickel, necktie, whatever. So... he gets two wrong first. He picks one and it sucks him into a wormhole. He picks another one and it bites him. And then he is about to pick the third one. He goes, gotta say the words. I'm like, bro!
Come on.
One of the first two could have been the real one and you just didn't say the words beforehand. Mm-hmm. So that didn't make sense. But I love it because he's stupid.
This Army of Darkness leans so heavily into its Three Stooges.
Oh my god,
influence. Yeah. And I love it.
I think the practical effects in Army of Darkness are so entertaining and so funny. And the fact that I know that, like, it looks fake in some ways is a plus.
I think...
We've been discussing this a lot in Jeff's class also. Like, special effects, practical versus digital, and, like, why do people... love practical so much, and I proposed that the only place practical is really still has a foothold is horror, because there's an appreciation for craft and kind of a marveling at what they can do and what they can put on screen.
I agree.
Like, it's like, I don't know how they did that, and that's amazing. I know that in The Quiet Place they just, you know, CGI'd monsters in. I don't know how they did some of the shit in Evil Dead, you know? Anyway, go on.
I was just going to say, what was it? I feel like the style, like the effect style, was purposefully done, because it feels like a love letter to...
Harryhausen.
Yeah, Harryhausen, old Harryhausen movies. Like,
well, particularly the skeletons.
Oh, absolutely.
Stop motion skeletons.
The Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, stuff like that.
Definitely. I love that, like, in the scene where all of the different mirror shards become little ashes, you can tell that only the, like, lead little person in one of the scenes is actually Bruce Campbell. And the other ones are just guys with dark mullets in the same outfit. You know, and it's so... But the forced perspective is impressive anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
It's great where the reflections, like, jump up out of the floor, out of the shards.
Yeah. You could tell that was just camera manipulation, which was super cool.
Yeah, it's great. Like, Army of Darkness utilizes a lot of very old school effects, and, I mean, they don't look great, but
they look great, you know?
Yeah. Like, there's a loving sense about them. Like, they were done by someone who loves what came before in the genre, and he did them with care.
One of the things we talked about in class is the weight of practical effects. And actually, Jared brought up, in horror, there's something, it's so different when you see a digital image of a monster or something horrific versus someone in a suit or someone in makeup, you know. And he proposed that it was like your mind recognizing how a body actually moves in space.
Absolutely.
It's solidity and it has weight on screen that allows kind of, in terms of fear, us to recognize that that's an actual entity, whether or not it's a person dressed up or whatever. Like, that's moving like a real thing.
Yeah, it's the difference between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Like, in Jurassic Park, where the physical robotic head of the T-Rex crashes through the sunroof of the car, that's still terrifying all these years later. Yeah. But then in Jurassic World, where the Indominus Rex picks up the rolling ball like a Tootsie Pop and starts to crunch on it, there's like no weight, there's no suspense or anything.
Practical feels
crunchy.
Sure. Feels crunchy. I would say that despite what people say, it ages better.
Oh, absolutely.
Practical ages better than digital, because you look back at digital effects from the late 80s, early 90s, and you can absolutely tell that we've improved by leaps and bounds. But I think practical effects, it's not like we've stalled on like how creative people have been, and like it definitely has gotten better. But I think that's such a golden age that we look at that as like the height of the art form, you know?
Like, yeah, that's why people will always talk about how the effects in something like The Thing or like Evil Dead 2, like Evil Dead 2 was like shoestring budget.
And like you can see like strings and stuff. But
The Thing was like a major studio production, but both look great. And everyone talks about how good these movies look in terms of effects. While years later, people only think about The Lawnmower Man in terms of like, wow.
That's true. They were on, you know, like the cutting edge or whatever.
The Lawnmower Man was once considered the cutting edge of CGI.
Now it's how did this get made? Well, we talked about, and I thought 2001 was boring because I watched it when I was 11 and I turned it off after 20 minutes.
I watched it like a couple years ago. It's still boring.
Okay, but we talked about how in that movie it still seems somewhat marvelous, the effects.
It looks great. I love...
But that's because... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to like... I really don't like 2001, but I absolutely acknowledge like how well done
how cool the effects are.
Yeah.
And supposedly that's because Kubrick didn't want it replicatable. He destroyed the machines that made it.
God, what an asshole.
He's a fucking dick piece of shit, and I hate him. And only people who are dick pieces of shit, like, worship Kubrick also. Anyway.
Ladies, if a man
Ladies! That's a deal breaker.
If a man says his favorite filmmaker exclusively is Kubrick.
Run away.
Red flag.
But that's why it hasn't aged. Because that's one example. There is one. And it is the best because it's the only one. You know? So, I mean, that's one way to look at it, which I find really interesting. But there's just... And I just finished a paper today about VHS aesthetics, among other things. Yes.
Shout out to Lynn. She is officially done with coursework.
I'm done!
In graduate school. All that's left are thesis hours.
I just gotta write a thesis and, like, pass an exam, which is making me shit a brick. But I was talking about this video art film called The Great Satan from Everything is Terrible, which is an art collective that finds VHSs at garage sales or Goodwills and then edits them together, which, you know, there are plenty of supercuts on the internet, but they have such a really specific, like, perspective, and it's, like, 70 minutes long with, like, 50 clips a minute, which is, like, insane. So it's really interesting, but one of the appeals is the aesthetic of the VHS.
Yes.
And I think that's something that can be carried over into practical effects. And it's very specific to people who grew up at the tail end of practical effects. That can be like, I associate this with the wonder of watching a movie for the first time as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and I think nostalgia has drawbacks, and I think particularly Everything is Terrible is very anti-nostalgia, because they're like, here's like all the shitty stuff that we don't talk about from 1987, like this weird videotape of like a puppet talking about not doing drugs or whatever. But I think when I like see a videotape kind of visual, I'm like brought back to Barney or whatever in my head.
Here's the thing, like, even cheaply done physical effects are still better than, like, even mediocre CGI.
It's true, yeah, because our eye has been trained to be like, that's not real. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and at least you believe it if it's a practical effect. Like, it may break the suspension of disbelief, and you may be like, that's a dude in a suit, but at least it's a suit.
Like, that's why, like, things like the Muppets. Everyone loves the Muppets.
Of course.
Everyone gets uncomfortable around those bad CGI kid shows.
Oh, that's true. That's so true. There's just something human about a physical object, which sounds counterintuitive.
I mean, that's why in Army of Darkness, we only see the skeletons from, like, the
waist
chest
up.
up, and you just know, like, Ted Raimi is down there.
Yes, it's always Ted. Oh my God.
Holding them on like a stick.
Yeah, and the people in the background are dressed as skeletons, and it's extremely clear that they're like 3 times wider than the skeletons. Yeah. But they have like suits on to make them look like skeletons. And there's actually a zoom shot where they like push in, and one guy on the side, he's dressed as a skeleton, and you like clearly see his eyes like blinking and going like I'm like, okay, Ivan. That was probably Ivan.
We see you.
Yeah. But I think Army of Darkness is honestly my favorite of the Evil Dead movies. Which, I mean, it's arguably the least horrific. But
it is. It's I still can't believe it's rated R.
It's crazy, isn't it? There's one boob. You
barely see the boob.
I think he says fuck once. It's very short. He's like, get the fuck out of my way.
I definitely need to catch it.
Hold on, let me check the
And there's a geyser.
I think let's see what it's R for. But this is a Universal production. So this is mainstream.
Yeah.
I'm sure...
Well, that's why the budget was so cut.
Yeah. I'm sure EID 1... What? Evil Dead 1? Sorry. EIT is how I've been writing Everything is Terrible in that like 18-pager that I just got done with. Sorry. It's rated R for violence and horror. Which is so corny.
The amount of blood that we see
negligible
on screen is the same amount of blood that we see in Jaws.
Okay. What does that mean? Which is a little? Is that what you're saying?
Like the geyser in this?
Yeah.
We see tons of blood and gore. We see several body parts in Jaws, and Jaws is PG.
Well, R wasn't introduced until the 80s.
Okay.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's insane that it's rated R. I think it was probably because it was a wide release. I feel like Evil Dead 1 was on like the drive-in circuit or the grindhouse circuit.
Absolutely.
So it was definitely an independent feature. Evil Dead 2, I believe, was independent as well. So they didn't have to please studio suits who, by and large, are much more sensitive to
things,
gore and violence.
Like, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite just because it's the perfect blend of like horror and comedy.
I agree. I do. I think Army of Darkness for some reason just like hits me in like the perfect spot. Like every line is funny, every weird like throwaway movement is funny. Like how a dude dies is hilarious to me. Like it's just ideal. But I do think Evil Dead 2 is like the perfect. Evil Dead 1's too much for me. I'll be real for you. I don't like it.
I'm right there with you. I've seen it once and I'm good.
I think it's important. I definitely have. I wrote a piece about cabin horror and the natural world.
Yeah.
and I think it's really interesting what it has to say as the first modern cabin horror. Also, its depiction of gender and the tree rape specifically, and how nature is reclaiming humanity through the woman, and how women are seen as more susceptible to evil influence, but also more associated with nature, while men are more associated with civilization, traditionally. So I think it's like an important movie to talk about. Yes. I don't like watching it. Oh no. You know, Evil Dead 2 I like watching. I like it a lot. Yeah,
something I watch like at least once every year.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we talk about just
no
how dare you? About
I say that all the time. Can we talk about
You do.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about the physicality that Bruce has brought to every stage of this franchise. So funny. Yeah, he is. It's interesting because when I made that short film a few weeks ago, I did use footage from Evil Dead 1 because I found a clip of Joe Bob Briggs talking about it, like hosting a horror show where he showed Evil Dead 1. And it's so funny because like most of the time he's in the back while like Tommy or whatever is like taking an axe to one of the girls. In Evil Dead 1, yeah.
And Bruce is just kind of in the back like shell-shocked. And I think that movie is about him going from a very like reserved, kind of sweet guy to I have to do this and I have to survive. And it's treated more as a traumatic thing. It's not funny.
This is not the direction that I was.
No, I'm saying that his performance like has evolved over time with the character. So in Evil Dead 2, it's like that's I think where he starts like feeling his comedy chops.
I'm talking about like stunts.
Oh, I thought you meant like physical like comedy, like in his face or whatever. You know?
No.
Personality. Okay, anyway, whatever, go on.
Just like I love the like workmanship that Bruce has put into like falling downstairs. Or my favorite scene out of the whole franchise is where the hand becomes possessed.
Oh, of course.
And starts breaking like dishes over his head. It's just so good. And Bruce does such good work on doing all of this.
I would suggest to those who haven't to listen to the Evil Dead 2 commentary because it's Bruce and Sam. Just talking about like how they did stuff, how they, like put everything together. But they always make jokes about like how Sam is going to hurt Bruce today. Like, what are you gonna do to me this movie, Sam? Are you gonna like actually kill me for your own pleasure or whatever? My favorite is at one point they're watching a scene and Bruce goes, okay, so in this scene, Sam looks at me and says, all right, scream like a woman. And then he goes, ah! So they have such like a... Bruce will do anything for Sam, which is hilarious to me. The most
painful scene is when Ash gets thrown down the stairs into the cellar. And he's like bent into a U and just...
Oh, that was awful. Yeah, and he like goes between the slats.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Did we? I'm sure we talked about it on the last time we discussed Evil Dead 1 and 2.
It's been a while.
You liked the remake, right?
I did. It's very... I know. We've had this argument many times.
I don't think it's an argument. I think it's a disagreement.
Matter of taste. But I mean, of course, I didn't like that they kept the tree rape.
Yeah, no.
No,
didn't
thanks.
like that either.
But
there is a quote. Someone asked Bruce about like the comedy in all three movies, and I think maybe the only funny thing in the first one is when they find the Kandarian dagger and Bobby goes, "Looks like your ex-girlfriend." But Bruce had an answer where he was like, a woman gets raped in the first movie. I don't think that's very funny. I don't think that's comedy.
No.
And like, I'm like, good for you, Bruce.
Like, for me, the director?
Sam?
Nope, the remake.
Fede Alvarez?
Yeah, the Fede version is on the edge of really black comedy. Like, it's like the scene where the girl cuts her arm off.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, it's on the line between like just gross out, but also played in a way that's kind of like borderline funny.
I remember being excited because I read that Diablo Cody polished the script.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is going to be like a quippy... Well, and you go from Evil Dead, which the last memory we have of the Evil Dead franchise in 2013 or whatever was Army of Darkness, you know? I think it has its moments. It really it veered into torture porn for me in a really big way. And I don't know, it was just all of the like fun and spirit of the original trilogy to me. And like the fun and spirit even in the first one, even though it's incredibly oppressive and frightening and scary, it's very much like these are 5 kids from Michigan who found a cabin and they're making a movie, you know? Yeah. It kind of had like a really like DIY ethos that was clear even in the film. But yeah, and recently on his Twitter, Fede Alvarez was like, what should I make next? Evil Dead 2, Don't Breathe 2, or Stop Working Forever? And I think I said Evil Dead 2 because I would just be interested in what he would do next.
I put Evil Dead 2.
But yeah.
Yeah, the movie felt like a really gritty, rickety roller coaster. Like, everything was just so over the top. And I saw it in a packed theater, and everyone was like getting really into it. Not like enjoying the gore, but like nervous laughing. And it was a fun crowd to watch it with. And I remember like the ending where it was just like raining blood. Shout out to Slayer. It was just such a great ending for me. It
was a good ending. I did like that. I liked that she was like, suck on this or whatever. That was like a glimpse of Evil Dead for me.
Like, that's the kind of gore, that ending, that's the kind of gore like I just really like. Stylistically, like, it's just so over the top and just like bombastic.
Yeah. I think before then it was so, just how it was shot was very much more Saw or Cabin Fever to me. You know, it was very much more real, which I think made it worse for me. If that movie felt like Evil Dead in name only, from my perspective, which I think they could have called it anything else and it would have been like, oh, a cabin horror movie. Okay. Yeah. You know? But, and I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I'm sure it is other people's, but I don't know. I think, if anything, Ash versus Evil Dead is the continuation of the series that maintains the spirit of the first
we can absolutely see the jump from Army of Darkness to Ash versus Evil Dead.
If he like became like 70% more of a dick
in
like the last 30 years or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a difference between gore that is meant to impress and gore that is meant to disturb. And I think Ash vs. Evil Dead is meant to impress. You know what I mean?
And Fede's Evil Dead is disgust. I would agree with that.
And that, whatever floats your boat, man. Like, that's fine if you're into it.
I mean, I don't trust anyone that's into, like, Hostel.
Exactly. I think there is, like, an invisible line for most horror fans that are, like, once it becomes almost indistinguishable from what you perceive as reality, it gets real dicey for me. Like, Evil Dead 2 didn't scare me.
Yeah.
Ash vs. Evil Dead doesn't scare me. Like, a lot of gore doesn't scare me because it's done in a winking way that is very much
Mhm.
like, this could never happen, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I think that's why I have a hard time with like slasher movies,
Mhm.
because it's always like knife work, and that's too realistic for me.
I can see that.
I'd rather have like a demon or a monster munching on someone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the first few, like the first Halloween, the first like Friday the 13th or whatever, and the first Evil Dead all started out incredibly earnest and like very much like, this is just, we're watching people get killed, I guess. But you know, I think the longer a franchise goes, the more interested it is in novelty kills rather than, because the only, unless there's like a continuing final girl, the only draw is watching 5 new people get killed or whatever,
Yeah, absolutely.
by the villain who becomes a protagonist.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because by like movie 2 or whatever, Freddy and Jason are being rooted to kill kids.
I think I wouldn't put Freddy in kind of the traditional like slasher, just from your definition of like knife work and stuff.
Mhm.
I think from the get-go that was about the like insanity of the kills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the bed like pulling you in,
Right.
or like crawling on the ceiling and all that. I feel like that was always kind of heightened and always about the kills.
Yeah.
But I think like something like Halloween, it was very much about like the menace and the fear and paranoia of like having someone stalk you, you know?
Yeah. At least the first one.
Yeah.
Can't speak.
Season of the Witch.
Which sounds bonkers.
Oh, that movie's insane. I think I have it. I don't know. I might have gotten rid of it because I didn't like it. But
Like, I
it's wild.
love the premise.
Masks that turn your face into snakes.
And bugs.
I
Wild.
hate that shit. That is so gross. Oh my god.
Anyway, Bruce,
Bruce.
so long and thanks for all the memories.
So long, baby.
I hope that whatever you do next, you love.
Just a lot of lollygagging. Do you follow him on Twitter?
Absolutely.
He's always lollygagging.
Someday, maybe I'm seeing the Grand Canyon for the first time.
You're real
this
hype
month.
about that.
I'm so excited. I love
Big ol' hole in the ground. Huh?
I love big old nature.
Okay.
And maybe I'll work up enough courage to send him a lollygagging picture.
Yes, you should. That'd be awesome. I mean, he's responded to me, so.
Wait, you've lollygagged?
No, I just meant he's retweeted our
He did.
Sundown the Vampire in Retreat, which
Which-
I have a copy of that now.
That movie, that episode is so far my
It's
favorite episode.
fantastic. And like that movie, perfect. I ordered it on Amazon like the next day.
Can we just say there's few better feelings than like seeing a movie for the first time and just like loving it,
Just having
unexpectedly
a
loving it.
huge blast
Yes.
the whole time. Especially if that movie is not good. You know, like if it's a bad, good movie.
It's a true example of a movie that knows what it is and
Mhm.
knows it's bad, but everyone
Loves
has
it.
fun.
It's great. It's so fantastic. That brings me to a question. What is your favorite bad movie? So bad it's good movie.
Do you mean... Okay,
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Well, a movie that I have... You're going to hate this.
Okay.
Like, you are going to maybe walk out of the room upset.
This is my room, but okay.
I know. You're going to just walk to the bathroom. I don't know what you're going to do.
Okay.
But a movie that got universally dunked on
okay.
when it came out. And I saw it in a theater by myself.
Mom there?
No, there was
Mother!
a confused date going on
Oh
in
yeah,
front
I
of me.
remember that.
But Chappie.
Oh. I've heard things about that. I've heard on How Did This Get Made, they were like, you guys should do this, so.
It's like, it's dumb. It's been done before. A robot achieves consciousness. Oh shoot.
Didn't have Die Antwoord in it, though.
Yeah, Diane
Before.
Wood is they're insane
Oh Those people.
They're so
freak
ugly.
me out.
But like, I really like Neil Blomkamp's style.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though all his movies have like capital letters message, I'm still a sucker for them. And Chappie, like, sad robots always make me sad. And I know you hate robots.
This is like a real movie, though.
Yes.
This is like, when I say like so bad it's good, like people like it got like a release, you know, like that's a movie.
All movies got a release.
No, you know what I mean. Like that was a notable film, and that's fine.
Okay,
like,
Tremors 2 was straight to.
All right, baby,
straight
that's
to
what I'm
VHS.
talking about. I'm talking Tremors 2 level bullshit. You know?
Tremors 2 is the last crusade of the Tremors franchise.
Oh, okay. Is Kevin in it still?
No, but Fred
Is
Ward.
Reba?
No.
Reba was too good for this movie.
Reba was a real wild card in the first one. For those of you wondering why we felt a silence for 5 hot seconds, we had to do the Reba point.
There's a few gifs going around from the Reba sitcom opening credits where she does a little head shake with her arms crossed, and then she raises her eyebrows and does a point.
Be looking for that on our Twitter feed in the coming days. But yeah,
Chappie can be so bad it's good, but it seems like you like it genuinely.
I genuinely like it. Yes,
like,
I'm well aware of its flaws. But while Chappie is a bad movie that I like, Tremors 2 is a movie that got no release and is objectively a good movie.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's just as it's just as funny and like creature. It's the last one to really use physical effects in the Tremors movies.
Which, I don't know if you know this, but we like that.
Yes. You've just listened to 30 minutes of us going off about that.
Maybe.
But yeah.
Ice spiders.
Ice spiders.
Ice
wow.
spiders. That is... We would have band practice in high school on Sunday afternoons. And we never practiced, and we never really had a band. But we would watch Sci-Fi Network.
Oh, I loved sci-fi monster features.
So, and this, I believe Ice Spiders is one of the last before they recognized that people were watching their movies ironically. And where they started adding, like, 80s, like, pop stars into
What's
the cast.
Hasselhoff doing?
They were, like, trying to make it bad, which does not compete.
We're not here for that.
No, that is, I'm being pandered to as a Paracinema fan.
This was the days of, like, Ghost Shark and Lake Placid 2.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking Spring Break Shark Attack, babe. Ice Spiders, however, stars one of the guys from Starship Troopers, not Casper Van Dien.
Oh, Neil Patrick Harris.
Patrick Muldoon. Stars Patrick Muldoon as a ski instructor.
Naturally.
And there is, the mountain is next to a spider scientific, like, experiment ground.
8 inches away.
Obviously.
Listen, there's so many of these spider movies on sci-fi.
This one is
It's
genuinely
on
the
ice.
funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. A few kids get trapped in a school bus, and there are spiders on the outside of the school bus, and they're trying to get in, and one of the kids says, "It's a spider. It doesn't know what glass is." And that quote has obviously stayed with me for a long time. It's a spider. It doesn't know what glass is. Chock full of lines like that.
Fantastic.
Truly, I think his name is Johnny Rico or something. Wait, is that?
That's Casper Van Dien.
There's a similar name in. You know what? Give me your phone. I'm gonna Google Ice Spiders right now.
I'll pull it up.
Let's do the cast of Ice Spiders. What are the characters' names? And it was my first experience with a movie that was so bad It was amazing.
I miss that age of sci-fi.
Me too.
Like, sci-fi's gone good now. The Expanse.
Channel Zero, which I need
These
to be
are both
watching,
fantastic shows.
but I haven't seen.
I
You
haven't,
got it up?
I'm
You got
pulling
it up?
Girl,
Got it up?
I'll let you know when I find the Ice Spiders.
You know what? Dead Air. I'm sorry.
All right,
I mean,
Patrick Muldoon. Oh, here's a
plays who?
here's a picture.
Oh my God! There's a clip of the spiders
It's
on the
probably
bus.
Taylor. It's got a banging 3.1 on the IMDb.
Oh hell yeah!
Patrick Muldoon,
Plays
Dan, nicknamed Dash Dashel.
Dashel. That's his fucking name. That's
God.
it.
Vanessa Williams is in it.
Oh yeah, she is.
This is a lot.
They kill a spider with a taxidermy deer head with its antlers.
Amazing.
It's really great. So that's my favorite So Bad It's Good movie because it was my first.
I remember.
You always remember your first.
You do.
And this one was a gentle introduction.
I remember Boa vs. Python.
Okay.
And I was watching it with my good friends who live down the street from me. We always, on the weekends during middle school, we would always watch these sci-fi creature feature marathons.
Do your parents know about this?
Yes, they absolutely know where I got my love of monster movies.
I mean at the time.
Yes.
Oh,
It was
okay.
one of the few things I was allowed to do. Because I was allowed to watch all the violent movies as long as it
I
was
know.
like a monster.
Oh, okay. I thought you just sat in your room and ate saltines.
Yes, I was the epitome of bland. But on Boa vs. Python, the titular creatures obviously
Okay,
have,
Ladybird.
have a showdown in the
Yeah,
end.
of course.
But the plot revolves around like a group of like snake specialists who have to wrangle the beasts. But also going on alongside all that is like the world's most elite hunters gathering for the hunt of the century.
Ooh.
And it's all...
You know what the most dangerous game is? Man. Go on.
It's deep, fam.
Go on.
And so, as there's like this introduction of all the world's deadliest hunters as they are assembled on a landing strip somewhere, and and they all get like their own badass introduction, and then a khaki-colored station wagon veers onto the runway and like swerves and stops, and this like father-son hunter get out, and the guy who's assembled all these hunters is like, they're a rich family from Texas. I'm like, as a young child who knew very little of the world, I'm like, wow, no one rich would drive that station wagon.
Okay.
And that has stuck with me more
Wow.
than most of like my high school education.
I guess. I mean, you're right though. That's true. Oh shit! What I was gonna say. I really forgot. You should. AP Bio's over now. Season 1 is over.
Season 1 down.
But it ended with a Sadie Hawkins dance and
In the khaki pants.
no, and Patton Oswalt insisted it be themed as the film adaptation of Michael Crichton's Congo. So they have a Sadie Hawkins dance.
Does Bruce Campbell
Themed.
reprise his role?
Unfortunately, no. There is like a jungle theme, and everyone's in monkey suits, and there is a like fake stone, like Legends of the Hidden Temple
Oh my god.
giant face that looks like Patton Oswalt.
God.
So watch fucking AP Bio to see a Congo themed high school
Here
dance.
we are in 2018 getting a Congo reference.
I mean, yeah.
A movie about shooting apes with lasers.
And Tim Curry.
Oh fuck, I forgot Tim Curry was
Yeah,
in it.
baby. He's in they talk about him on the How Did This Get Made episode. Okay, we're going off the rails. Do you have a personal pick for this week, Wyatt?
No. Just to get done with this semester. That's my
Okay.
pick.
Not something we watched just recently?
I feel like, yes, actually I do. Rewind it back. So,
Take that, rewind it back.
So there's
Usher
been-
makes a beat that makes a booty go. Yeah.
I feel like your mother just clutched her pearls.
She knows I like Yeah. The song Yeah.
So there's been a surprise gem of a hit on Netflix.
I don't know if it's a hit of people other than us.
I've
but...
seen a lot of glowing reviews on like AV
Oh,
Club.
Okay. Yeah, go on. What is it?
Well, you're the one that really introduced it.
Well, it's your personal pick.
It could be a shared pick.
Okay, oh my god.
Jesus.
So, Sanrio is the company that makes Hello Kitty and, like, Little Twin Stars and Gudetama and all that stuff. They're Japanese. And they now have a Netflix series for my favorite of their characters, Aggressive Retsuko, who is a red panda who works at an office who hates her fucking life. And what does she do to let off steam?
Her way of coping with the day is karaoke death metal.
Yeah. So throughout the day, when she is stressed and everyone is taking advantage of her and piling on work and treating her like shit, she'll go to the bathroom or the storeroom, and at the end of the day, the karaoke bar, and just scream.
Just bowels of her guts.
She has corpse paint on when this happens. Yeah, it's great.
I love it. Because I've always loved Metalocalypse, and this feels like a blending of like that metal humor paired with some
really cute
too real
Japanese animals.
That too, but also two real life moments of
she hates her job
working
and wants
in a
boyfriend,
dead-end job,
and to get married so she doesn't have to work.
She's got money problems.
Yeah,
that makes me sweat.
Yeah. So Agretsuko. It's amazing.
Delightful. Episodes are like, what, 15 minutes?
15 minutes each, and there are 10 of them, so get going.
Have an afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Any personal picks?
I don't know. I might think of another one while I'm talking, but Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer, an emotion picture.
Oh man, the internet has really been going off for that.
Yes. I stayed up and streamed it from BET the other night when it premiered a few weeks ago. And Janelle Monáe has come out recently with her new music, which is very politically conscious, incredibly positive, and proud of her pansexuality, which she came out recently in Rolling Stone said that she's pansexual. The film is 50 minutes, I believe.
Is it on YouTube? Or?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is an assemblage of some of the music videos, but it takes place in a dystopian future where minorities and queer people are considered dirty computers, and they are taken by the state, and their memories are wiped. And then they're used kind of as servants or to serve the state.
Too real.
Which is horrific, but the whole conceit is as her memories are being deleted, they play her memories, and that's each of the songs or each of the music videos. And Tessa Thompson plays her love interest, and don't worry, they escape in the end.
Good.
And they
so
get together,
it's basically like
they remember
a sexy version of a Radiohead album.
I don't know about that. I don't listen to Radiohead.
I know you hate Radiohead.
I know there's a album called OK Computer, so maybe. But like their love overcomes the erasure of their memories.
Well, good.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Because I'm tired of like sad endings to things.
And so it's two black women and a black man in kind of a triad who escape the state and go and love and empower each other and empower other people like them. And it's incredibly beautiful. In particular, the music video for the song Pink really had an impact on me. It is features the now iconic visual of Janelle Monáe in vagina pants. Giant pants that look like a vagina.
I've missed this iconography.
Really?
Think about the circles that we hang out on.
I've retweeted a bunch of this, but anyway, Tessa Thompson's head goes in between her legs, and it looks like her clitoris. But it's a bunch of women, black women particularly, in a desert kind of motel, loving each other and dancing and having fun. And like sharing like this incredible positive experience, and the film is all about, it's an ode to vaginas and loving them and having them, but I was really struck by it because it was a vision of female sexuality completely divorced from any presence or imposition of or the gaze of men. It was just completely, it was incredibly sexy, but it didn't feel exploitative. It was erotic, but it didn't feel pornographic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was a beautiful vision of sexuality, of women loving women for women, which I thought was really fantastic. And personally, I think it was one of the first times I was like, oh, I could date a woman and it could be this good. It could just be happy all the time. Is that what a relationship could be? Like happiness, and I'm not stressed out all the time.
Amazing, the possibility of a healthy relationship.
So it was just like, I think my perception of relationship with men is very heavy and like weighted with expectations and memories and past traumas and stuff like that. So it was like, Janelle Monáe was like, here you go. Here is a vision of women loving each other where it's just pure hope and happiness and positivity. It really impacted me.
Here's the thing about me. Anything that portrays like the slightest bit of like genuine kindness makes me want to tear up and cry.
It is, yeah. I almost cried at the writing center when I watched it.
Like, I feel like I would get teary-eyed at that. Like, Fury Road makes me cry.
Okay.
Just kindness in that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but Tangerine. The other day on Tumblr, I came across a gift set of two of the main characters exchanging wigs.
Yeah, that's the end of the movie.
Like, and I started, like, genuinely crying at that. Just, like, people being kind to people is a huge thing for me.
Well, and that's kind of the conceit of that whole album and that film is, why is genuine love and community being oppressed and being criminalized or vilified?
Yeah.
And why can't that just exist separate from that kind of oppression? So I guess that's my personal pick of the week, and I may show you that video after we stop recording, if that's okay.
We're also going to have to watch the Childish Gambino This Is America, because the images from that video have been stuck in my head all day. Okay,
I've heard a lot about it on Twitter.
Trent Reznor came out of the Twitter grave to tweet about it. If
Trent Reznor loves it, I will. You know, I consider myself like the bastard daughter that he and Tori Amos never had in the early 90s. I have her like poetic feminine soul and his like dark hard-edged taste in clothes.
there are a few pop culture people I trust more than Trent Reznor.
He's got it, man.
Like, I would put him on the same level of Guillermo with me.
Wow. Okay. Guillermo Trent collab. Let's do it. His eyes just got very wide, Wyatt's eyes. All right, so we good, I think?
We good.
All right.
Well, as always, find us on Twitter.
At Evil Dread Pod.
You find us on SoundCloud, iTunes.
Awesome. Well, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Clearly behaved like a man demented, obsessed, utterly lost.